We're going to get started in just a little bit here. I think I've got one more song playing. Maybe not. Have one more song. Yes! Okay. Come on now. Get on your dancing shoes and get going. It's Tuesday. Come on. All right, I'm going to pause that music. It kind of loops, doesn't it? You feel like, okay, you already said that once. Isn't that enough? But I wanted to start with a little bit of Brazilian Cuba type music because the owner of this machine out of Florida has a Spanish speaking background. I visited with her one time down in Florida, and she was able to interpret Spanish and speak Spanish. And it was just a delight to hang out with Emma down there and get to know one of our Cow Country family members. This has been a number of years ago, but what a great visit that was. So give a little bit of a Brazilian, kind of a Spanish cultural type music to start the day. Has nothing to do with the machine that I'm going to be presenting to you today. Going to be presenting to you an Elna Lotus. Don't believe I've ever had a chance to present that on this channel before. And this is specifically a Lotus model SP. So it's going to have a couple more bells and whistles on it than the very original Lotus that would have come out right around 1968. Give you a little bit of a history on this company. And any of you that already have knowledge about the Elna sewing machine company, chime in and steal some of my thunder and give us some details on the company, which as we speak is no longer Swiss based. The Elna sewing machine company is based now in Japan. How many of you knew that? That Elna was bought out by the Japanese company, none other than Janome, back right around 1990s, 1996. 1996, Elna was bought out by Janome, and so it went from being a proud Swiss company that was founded right around 1934. They came on the scene really late. I mean, think about it. The Singer sewing machine companies, other companies like that, all came online pretty much in the 1800s. The Elna sewing machine company did not come onto the scene until the 1930s, right after the Great Depression, 1934, and was founded by Dr. Ramon Casas, C-A-S-A-S. So Dr. Casas had a vision of making a machine that was kind of self-contained, had portability, was able to get around and be able to do some great things in a very compact package. And that's why when I kind of scoped around the workshop a little bit, you may have seen two featherweights in the background, because I wanted to give you a perspective of the size of the Elna Lotus compared to, say, a Singer featherweight. They would have come on the scene much earlier. The featherweights, obviously, they were introduced at the Chicago World's Fair in the 1930s, right around the same time that the Elna sewing machine company was established. So Singer had already been turning its wheels for well over a half a decade, when almost going on a decade, when the Elna sewing machine company was established in 1934. But I wanted to give you a perspective. When you look at this Elna Lotus, kind of show you a front shot of it. It's all self-contained. It's in its own little case. It stays in its own little case when you're operating it. And when you look at a featherweight in perspective, I'll grab the cleaner of the two featherweights. This is a featherweight from Susie's and my collection back here. This is a featherweight that was stored in a very, very bad place, down in central Illinois. Take a look at this machine. It came to the workshop a couple years ago, and I've been so busy amid my transition and everything, I haven't had a chance to do a lot of work, but it's going to be heading back to the paint shop very, very soon to get a major spa day. But you can see that this machine is in very, very sad shape. It belonged to the daughter of a gal down there, and now the granddaughter has the machine. If I'm getting that right, I'd have to look at my notes. But even this machine back here that's in Susie's and my collection that hasn't gotten a lot of detailing, you can just look at it in contrast to this one out of Illinois and get a perspective. So I'm going to get this yucky one out of the way so I can take my glove off, and we'll do some comparisons as far as size of the featherweight to the Elna Lotus SP is what Emma has, that she dropped off at the workshop back in Oconto some time ago. So obviously with a featherweight sewing machine, you can't really sew with it with the belt up, right? Or with the bed up. With the bed up. You can't sew with a featherweight with the bed up. So as we look at this machine, this featherweight, from one end to the other, you're looking at right around 15 inches. The height of the machine is right around 8.5 inches. And the width of the machine is right around 7 inches. Now, if we look at the Elna Lotus, let me move the camera back. We look at the Elna Lotus. I'm going to actually unpackage it a little bit so we can begin to see this machine. There's a picture of the owner's manual that Emma sent with the machine. Get my glove off. And we'll take a look at this machine a little bit closer. So it kind of folds down. Oh, I didn't introduce our friend. I was kind of rude. I have little friends in the workshop that represent the different sewing machine brands. And this happens to be our Swiss Miss from Switzerland. Since the roots of Elna are Swiss, I could have just as easily brought down one of our Japanese friends because it's Japanese owned now, but the roots of Elna are Swiss. So our Swiss Miss wanted to come out and be a part of the party today as we celebrate this great machine that has gotten a lot of its gusto back. When it came in the workshop, I'll see if I can pull up one of the videos. It was just slugging along. And now all of a sudden it is really, really a Spitfire. So you push this little tab up on the front. See if I can get a little bit closer. I just don't want to knock the camera off. You push this little tab up on the front, and the front of the bed kind of folds down like this. You push the tab on the side of the machine, and the other side, see if I can do this. These are really tight tabs. Push the other one in. There we go. Ha-ha! Push the other one in, and this other side folds down. So you've got workspace on the front of it. You've got workspace on the side of the machine. I wish they had put like a little leg on here, you know, on the back of this bed. If they had put a little leg that would fold down, and then you could have the bed supported when you were sewing, but Elna didn't do that. It just folds straight down. And then we have one more bed. It's going to be a little bit hard to show it to you. It's on the rear of the machine. Let me see if I can do it this way. You can kind of see it right here. And again, you push one of those little tabs, and then this kind of folds down. I don't have enough space right here for this machine. Once it's opened all the way up, I'll see if I can move it forward, move some of my things out of the way back here, and drop that bed down. So when all is said and done, pull this camera away a little bit. You can kind of see what this kind of folds out to. This Elna Lotus, and this happens to be an SP model. There were a total of 3 Lotus models within that series that was introduced in 1968. If someone wants to Google it and put in the live chat what those 3 models were within the Lotus family, I would greatly appreciate that. But we can get a perspective of their vision, the vision of Dr. Ramon Casas, who said, I want a machine that's self-contained. And so this one, when you fold all this up, it's all tucked in. You can carry it around. The machine has some level of protection. And then you pop it open, and you've got workspace here. You've got workspace on the back of the machine. You've got workspace on the front of the machine. And the machine is able to really deliver some great outcomes. Let's get some measurements on this machine as well. And again, we'll compare it to that featherweight that's in Susie's in my collection in the back over here. This one back here. So if you measure the overall length of this Elna, including the little bed that folds down in the front, from one end to the other, you're looking at a workspace of about 18 and a half inches, almost 19 inches, compared to the featherweight again that has about 15 inches. So if someone wants to capture these details in the live chat, that would be really cool. The comparison between the featherweight and the Elna Lotus. So again, the Lotus, the workspace from one end to the other is right around 18 and a half inches. The featherweight is going to have workspace again of about 15 inches. The height of the machine on the featherweight, we'll do that first, is right around 8.5 inches. The height on the Elna is right around, if you don't count the handle, the little handle that's up, you just count the top of the machine, it's right around 9.5 inches. And then the width, Jiminy Crickets, if you do the width of it and you take into account these beds that fold out, the width of the Elna Lotus, I don't even know if I can do this. Let's see here. The width of the Elna Lotus, as far as workspace from front to back, is right around 18 inches. 18 inches compared to 7 inches on the featherweight. So really some amazing, 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 amazing design features. And that's why some of you might not know this, but this particular machine received the high honor of being inducted into the Museum of Modern Art's design collection out in New York. So very few machines get that honor. Very few anything get the honor of being inducted into the Museum of Modern Art's design collection out in New York City, but this one did, and it really, really speaks well of what the doctor that founded this company, Dr. Ramon, had in his vision of giving a machine, the practicality, the portability, but also the punch of some really, really cool design features on it. So, at any rate, blah, blah, blah. So, you get a little bit of an idea of the difference between the Elna Lotus that belongs to Emma out of Florida, with all of this crazy workspace that they engineered into this case, this self-contained machine, compared to the featherweight that everyone loves, including Susie and I. We love this machine. We've got, I think, about 6 or 7 of them, and they're amazing machines. But really, when you go from one designer to another, you all of a sudden can see that some of those visions and some of those innovations really take it to a different level. This was a great thing in the 1930s. This was an amazing thing in the 1960s when the Lotus line was initially introduced. Now you might see on the bed, I've already done a bunch of sewing. I've got some amazing thick leather here that this machine was able to sew through after a lot of workshop magic. I was able to go down and do some of these fun stitches on 100% cotton. We'll duplicate some of those stitches today. And the other thing I should point out real quick before I forget to do it is, along with the machines being different, that's kind of cool. You can see both of them right there. So the design features are different between this Lotus, which has a number of different stitches it can deliver, compared to the featherweight, which is the straight stitch only machine, unless you go with one of the zigzag kits that Singer came out with that'll give you some cam features you can do with a featherweight or any straight stitch machine that has a rotary hook system. But the power factor is also something you have to weigh in. Power is a big deal when you're looking to do certain types of sewing. Now, I've shown on this channel, I've sewn some crazy sew-offs with a featherweight. Susie reminded me of that yesterday as we were preparing for this live stream. She said, Scott, you've done sewing on featherweights, which exceeds machines crazy larger than this machine. I mean, it's 12, 14 ounce leather doing it on a featherweight sewing machine. And if some of you don't recall, well, let me just throw it out as a question. What size motor does a featherweight have? And what size motor do you think that this Elna Lotus SP has? We'll just do it like that. I'll throw it out to you like that as a question. So what size motor does the featherweight have? What size motor does this Elna Lotus have? I almost made a new word, Elna Lotus. What size motor do you think this Elna Lotus SP has that Emma sent from Florida? And while you're deciding that, I'll put on a little bit more Brazilian music. All right, you had some time to think about it. I am going to look at the live chat. You're going to look at the live chat. Oh, good morning to Emma from Florida. Great to have Emma be here. Emma is actually working today, if I remember correctly. So she's kind of splitting real quick away, and then she'll probably have to get back to her duties. But if you didn't know it, the featherweight sewing machine, oh, it looks like Emma just typed it in. 0.4 amps. I don't know if that says 0.47 that Emma typed. Let me put my glasses on. So the featherweight has a 0.4 amp motor. It may have been a typo because Emma's at work right now and she's typing and doing other things simultaneously. But the featherweight has a 0.4 amp, and Emma is spot on. This Lotus SP made by Elna has a 0.75 amp. 0.75 amp. So, oh golly. Susie typed in, does it have an 8.5 amp? I don't think so. That would be crazy. I think that was a typo. But yeah, the Lotus SP has almost twice the engine, as our friends over in Europe always say. The Lotus SP has almost twice the engine, 0.75 compared to 0.4 amps. And it has crazy amount more workspace because of the design that Dr. Ramon Casas came up with. All of this workspace from front to back, from end to end, it pretty much trumps the featherweight in every respect as far as workspace. The only thing I did not measure, and it's important to measure that as well because it's a big deal if you're dealing with bulkier materials and you're trying to turn that material, is the harp space. So we should look at the harp space as well. Let me do a quick measurement of the harp space on the Elna Lotus SP. And if someone will type this into the live chat, I would be grateful. So the harp space, again, if you're brand new to sewing, Susie and I meet people all the time that if we mention harp space, they think we're talking about a musical instrument. I'm not kidding you. Harp space is the distance from the needle to the pillar. So if I lower the camera a little bit more, it would be the distance from the needle to the pillar, from the bed to the bottom of the arm, and then finally from the front of the machine to the back of the machine. That's going to be technically your harp space. So again, needle to pillar, the bed to the bottom of the arm, and the width of the machine as far as giving you space to work. Really, in fairness to the featherweight, the harp space as far as width would be within this space, but we're going to take into account that extension bed simply because it's part of the machine. It's engineered into the machine and it's part of the machine. So if we measure from needle to pillar on Emma's Lotus SP, let's see here, right around 6.5 inches. So needle to pillar, 6.5 inches. The bed to the bottom of the arm is going to be right around a little bit less than, let me see here, right around 4.25 inches, kind of almost leaning towards 4.5, but 4.25 inches. And then finally the width, that's where we get crazy on this Elna, because I'm going to take into account the space that the doctor that designed these machines had in mind. So the width of the machine, if you take into account harp space extension, I'm kind of stretching the truth a little bit here, but harp space extension, you're looking at 18 inches on Emma's Lotus SP. Now, if I point the camera down range here to the featherweight, from the needle to the pillar, you're looking at right around 5 inches. From the bed to the bottom of the arm, you're looking at 4.5 inches. Wait, no, I'm sorry, 4.25 inches. 4.25 inches from the bed to the bottom of the arm. And then the width finally is going to be 7 inches, 7 inches on the featherweight. So if someone captures all of those numbers and types that into the live chat, you'll be able to see comparatively that the genius behind the design, and that's why it received that high honor of being put into the Museum of Modern Arts Design collection. It's part of the Modern Arts Design collection in the New York Museum of Modern Arts. That's a lot to say. So a lot of thoughtful design put into this Lotus SP, along with having a bigger motor. It's just got a lot of edges for someone that wants a machine that's super compact, but at the same time is going to deliver a really great outcome as far as power. Now I'm going to see if I can find that video. I sent it to Emma. See if I can find that video of what it was doing when it first came into the workshop, just to give you a perspective. I posted these on Facebook too. I believe I put these up on Facebook. Let me see. See if I can find these. I'll do my best, because I really want you to get a perspective when you see this machine run today. And it's been out in a cold workshop as well. So that is going to be a little bit of a factor as the machine warms up and starts to do its dance. Okay, here we go. I think this is the initial one, maybe. Wait a second, where is it? Oh, it's way up here. Okay, wait. I'm almost to it. Hang in there, hang in there. Getting close, getting close. Okay, I think this is it.
If you've never seen a machine like this before, you're not alone. It's a very rare Elna Lotus SP, super duper compact machine. You can see the workspace, the sides and everything else fold down. Otherwise, it's pushed back up, and you basically have a self-contained machine in a case. And you can see right here kind of what it looks like when it's all tucked away. But this machine that was made in Switzerland right now is struggling with power, belongs to Emma, a.k.a. Maddie, out of Florida. And this is what we're getting right now. That's all the way down. So I'm going to begin the process of pulling this machine apart and figuring out.
So hopefully you were able to see that. It's barely turning when Emma sends this or drops it off at the old workshop in Oconto, and it's been sitting amid the transition and storage, and finally got it on the workbench. And I was able to put my finger on things very quickly as far as what was going on with the machine. The other thing I should mention before I forget to mention it is, well, let me ask this in a form of a question. Let me ask this in the form of a question. The featherweight obviously has a belt-driven system over on the balance wheel off of the motor on the rear. How is the Lotus SP, how does it drive itself? How does it receive locomotion? Does it have internal belts like some of the Kenmores? Does it have, what's the locomotion system set up on this SP? If anyone knows, type it in the live chat. If no one knows, then I'll tell you. And that way you'll be able to have more knowledge about this specific machine. And while you're deciding that, I'm going to get this thing plugged in and hope that it's not so cold that it's going to give us challenges. Hopefully not. But it's only about 63 degrees in the workshop right now. It's really quite cool out here. So if anyone knows that answer, go ahead and type it in the chat. How is the Elna Lotus SP powered? How does it get its get and go? It's giddy up. I'm going to move this a little bit closer to the edge. Really high workbench here in this new workshop, and I've got to get this foot controller all the way on the floor. Let's see if I can bring this cord around the back and we'll plug it in over here. All right, I think after all that, I think I have it plugged in. All right, Rachel Rivera. Looks like Rachel Rivera is saying belts. Internal belts is what Emma is saying. And let's see here. Okay. Guess what? I'll come into the shot here. You can see me early in the morning. Where am I? There I am. There's no belts on this machine at all. There's no belts on the bottom. There's no belts on the top. There's no belts on the back. There's no belts at all on this machine. Believe it or not, on the inside of the machine, coming directly off of that 0.75 amp motor, there is a friction pulley system that makes direct contact with the balance wheel on the inside. I'll show you a picture of what it looks like. I sent it to Emma as far as progress shots. So there's no belts whatsoever on this Swiss-made Lotus SP. It's strictly a friction type drive directly to the balance wheel. So it's got positive traction. It's got direct drive. And that means a lot when it comes to launch, when a machine is running well, at least. Let me see if I can find a picture of it here. Getting closer. There we go. So when you take this machine apart, you got the 0.75 amp motor right there. There's that friction pulley right there. And there's the balance wheel, the inside of the balance wheel. So as that pulley turns, getting a call from New York. Hold on one second, y'all. Hold on. Hello, this is Scott. I'm in the middle of a live stream right now. Can I call you back?
Hello?
Yes, I'm in the middle of a live stream right now. Can I call you back?
Yes, call me back.
Okay, sounds good. Are you out in New York?
No, I'm in Virginia.
You're in Virginia. Okay.
I just got a 607, one of them portable numbers that you pay $15 a month for, and that's it, no matter where you're at.
Well, that's a good deal. I wish I paid $15 a month.
Well, I'll tell you about it when I meet you, because I'll probably be making a trip over. I live in Rose Hill and you're in Middlesboro, so.
Yep. All right, I'm going to get back to the live stream. I'll reach back out to you. You take care. Thanks so much.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, this gal, that's interesting. I'll be interested to find out. I'll let you all know what kind of machine she has, but it sounds like she's living in Virginia. And if you don't know it, Susie and I live in Southeast Kentucky. And Southeast Kentucky is very close to the border of Virginia, Tennessee, and it's not horribly far away from West Virginia. So we've been having a number of people drive in from Virginia, Tennessee, to bring sewing machines to us when we're down in Middlesboro, which is a lot closer to the Tennessee border. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So when I was getting ready to show you when that call came in, let me go back to that, that's a huge balance wheel right there, the silver balance wheel, and then the friction pulley. Very similar to the rotary. Remember the rotary machines like the domestic one over on the other workbench over there. Where is it? There it is. This domestic, which is from Missouri, I believe. This one also has a friction pulley on the rear, but the Elna was really kind of tricky about it. They're kind of slick. The Swiss are very slick people. They're very smart, innovative people. Instead of putting the friction pulley on the outside where it was prominent and visible, they tucked it away in the housing of the pillar and you have to tear the machine down a little bit to get to it, but it's well worth the effort because this requires servicing all that junk that comes off of the motor, and is moved around in the machine. Remember, I told you the motor is like a vacuum cleaner. When it's running, it sucks all the air from the environment in, and then it blows that stuff around inside of the machine as well. So this friction pulley, the balance wheel on the inside was just absolutely filthy. And that was part of the challenge of why the motor couldn't turn this machine up to a reasonable speed. So, at any rate, great answers by all of you. You guys did a great job, and I appreciate you stepping out of the shadows and sharing your thoughts on that. But this machine has 0 belts. It's got one friction pulley that drives that balance wheel directly, and really a huge benefit when it comes to that power delivery from this 0.75 amp motor. Yeah, it really does an excellent job. I'm going to see if there's any other. Also, any of you that are kind of ambitious and you're not afraid to get into your machines a little bit, you can see, let me see if I have the before of it. Where's the before? Any rate, the commutator on this machine was just absolutely filthy. Let me see if I can get a better picture of it. Oh, this actually shows you the friction pulley too, how filthy it was. Right there. See that Q-tip swab? And what I use is I use a little bit of light rubbing alcohol, put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on the Q-tip swab, and then hand turn that balance wheel, because when you take an Elna down, you have to drop the side of the machine down. So you don't want to, it's not really safe to try to operate the machine because the balance wheel or the flywheel is down against the table surface that you're working on. And if you power up the machine, you're vulnerable because this is all electrified. And also then you're grinding the balance wheel against the table surface. So I just reached underneath and turned it manually with my hand. And then you can get all that junk off of there. You can polish up the inside of the balance wheel, either using a Dremel tool, or if you're real careful, you can use almost like a steel wool and get all of the junk off of that balance wheel so that pulley has a smooth, clean surface to ride on. And then you can use a combination of dental tools, rubbing alcohol, and if you're real careful, because there's some delicate wires in there, you can use a Dremel tool to clean off that commutator so that those carbon stack brushes can make good contact and really, really start that electrical charge to give that motor every opportunity to get to the max power output. That's really where it all starts. It kind of comes in through the stators, it goes through the stack lamentations of the motor, and then it comes down to that output pulley area where that commutator is and those carbon brushes are. So you've got to get that whole engine clean, just like you would on your own car, in order to get maximum performance from that machine. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful, showing you kind of, that's only one of very few pictures that I shared with Emma to give her an idea of what the machine looked like on the inside, and to really give it a chance to get its greatness back, again. So yeah. All right, let's turn the light on. And Emma, being a great fellow teacher and a great student as well, has one of those LED lights in here. I just got done shipping back. You might remember we just presented the 404. That was the Frankenstein project that was out of Brooklyn, New York, belongs to Sibel. And just got done shipping that back to Brooklyn, New York. It's supposed to be arriving tomorrow. And that'll be great. I mean, I know she's really excited to get that machine back and put it into commission. Also, during this live stream, I should mention, if anyone has to step away, you'll want to circle back, because we've got a secret package that Sibel sent to us at the workshop out of appreciation for all the work that we put into this project. This was a major project, taking 2 machines and making one machine out of those 2 machines. And so she sent a neat package that was delivered a few days ago. I'll show it to you over here. It's over on this workbench. And we're going to actually open that. I'll get Susie's help when we get to that point. We'll actually open it up and see what Sibel sent to show, show appreciation to the wizard for doing what I do. I mean, it's just fun to take a machine that seems like it's a lost cause. The one that she got from eBay was just awful. I mean, it's just awful. And then to give it back to her as a machine that could just blow your socks off. So anyway, let's get into this Lotus SP finally, and we'll do a little bit of sewing on her. I'm going to rotate the balance wheel up. We'll get this leather out of the way. I will show you what I sewed on her, though, so you can get a perspective of the power that direct drive friction pulley on the balance wheel delivers, and then also, where you can put an attachment on a featherweight and get more stitches. This SP already has those stitches built into it. So there's one of our stitches, a 3-point zigzag, lovely, lovely stitching. And this is a pretty heavy gauge, full grain leather type cowhide. You see that right there. The thickness is probably about 5 ounces of leather, approximately. And Emma's machine, just after workshop magic and a lot of TLC and a spa day, just buzzed down this. We'll be sewing more leather as well. And there's our lock stitch on the back. If I kind of pull it back, you can get a look at the lock stitching on this heavy leather as well. And when it came to the workshop, you saw that little video clip. It would barely turn. It would have hit this and just stuck. But it's a different story now. So we'll do some more leather sewing on this as well, just like we do on the featherweights, because I want, if people have one of these Lotus SPs and they have the mentality that it's a delicate little machine because it's tiny. It's tiny, apart from the workspace, that is. If they have that perspective that it's tiny, it has to be treated delicately, blah, blah, blah. Once they see one of these live streams or videos showing what the machine is capable of, all of a sudden it expands their understanding of what that machine can deliver, especially one like this that has a 0.75 amp motor and it's got that direct drive benefit because of that pulley that makes direct contact with the balance wheel inside. So, and I don't know if anybody got the answer. If they did, that's fabulous. It's fabulous if you got that answer. But let me real quick, and it's inside of Emma's manual. And if you've got a manual like this, you can look at it as well. But you can see that the series of Lotus machines go all the way back to the Elna Lotus EC, and the EC stood for Economy Straight Stitch Machine. So the very first in the Lotus, the Elna Lotus series, was the Elna Lotus EC, the economy version of the Lotus, and it was a straight stitch only machine. Then they went into the Elna Lotus ZZ, which added a zigzag to the machine. And then finally they went up to the Cadillac or the Lexus or the Rolls Royce, if you will, of Elna Lotus sewing machines, the one that Emma has. And they came out with the Elna Lotus SP, which is special utility stitch machine. So if you didn't know all of that, now you do. 3 different Lotus versions, starting with the EC and then the ZZ and then the SP. I probably could make that into a rap song. I really could. I could totally make that into a rap song with the ECZZ SP. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, a proud history from this Swiss company that now is owned and has been owned since 1996 by the Janome sewing machine company out of Japan. And I'll just throw one totally out there to you guys because I love reminding you of things and also revisiting things and us sharing that knowledge then with others on Facebook and other YouTube channels, etc. Because we've got the smartest classroom with all of you on the entire internet, just hands down. But does anyone remember, what does Janome mean? And how did they come up with that name for that Japanese company that bought Elna back in 1996. What does Janome mean, and how did they come up with the name for that company when that company was established? Back in, I believe, Janome, I think they came on the scene rather late too. I want to say the 1920s. They were a late bloomer, just like Elna. They didn't come on the scene nearly as early as Wheeler and Wilson and Singer and a number of those other companies that started making machines way back in the day. Yeah, Eye of the Snake. Exactly right. Eye of the Snake, and apparently one of the founders was looking at a bobbin. They were looking at a bobbin similar to this. They were sitting in a boardroom, maybe in Japan or somewhere, and they looked at a bobbin like this, and they looked at the outside, the cornea. They looked at the iris. That's the iris in the middle, I think. They looked at that, and they said, "Holy mackerel, that looks like the eye of a snake." And so they came up with Janome that way. Yeah. So if you didn't know that, you do now. Look at all the stuff you guys are learning. That's why it pays to get up on a Tuesday morning and join us for these so you can have more knowledge. Yeah, Emma and Susie both nailed it. Great job. Great job, you guys. So, yeah, it's a super duper machine, and we're going to try to put it to work. Oh, I should show you a couple things on this machine. I should show you a couple things. First of all, we'll cover the threading. Normally on this machine, this little top lifts up as well. If I can get my fingernail underneath it. I may have to cheat and use something to pop it up with. This little top pops open as well. There we go. And you've got a little accessory tray that tucks right on top of the machine. It's got all the goodies and all the doodads, extra attachments, bobbins, needles, a needle thread eye thingy. I never use these things. Never use them, but they work great. We got a little seam ripper and a brush and a little screwdriver as well. And if you want to service this machine, you have to take out 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and then the whole top of this accessory tray comes off, and then you can get into the guts of the machine and do a thorough cleaning and a thorough service like I did on Emma's machine. You don't have to take this screw out, so just leave that screw alone, the one that's right there. Just take out the 4 corner screws, and the whole top comes off, including these little clippy things, which are free-flowing, so don't drop them. They kind of fall out if you're not careful, and you have to tuck them in a little groove when you put the top back in so that they're in the proper place. So if you take the top off, just make sure you get these in that little groove that's on the inside of the housing of the machine, and then put the screws back in again so you can service it. But this is normally the threader, the thread guide right here. This thread guide is usually kind of folded down inside of there like that. And then you can close the lid when the machine is tucked away. But when you need to sew, you need to bring it up and then bring that lid down. I'm doing this all one-handed. I'm doing this all one-handed. La, 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 la. All right, let me get that out. There we go. Get that out of there. So we'll cover the threading of the machine, and then we'll look at some of the other features on this machine as well. So the threading of this machine is pretty straightforward and easy. Let me get our take-up arm all the way up. There we go. Okay, threading on this Elna Lotus SP. We come off the top with our Coates & Clark dual duty XP thread right there. We come across the top of the machine through this thread guide. It's the only thread guide on the front and top of the machine. You'll use the same thread guide when you're winding a bobbin. When you're winding a bobbin, you'll basically go from the spool of the thread through here and then to your bobbin winding mounting point right here. And there's a special change that we have to make to the machine in order to drive this, and I'll explain that to you in just a little bit. But we come through this single thread guide right here. We drop down to the upper tension. The upper tension is right here. And you can see this is going to have the idea that there's a sweet spot with the Lotus line when that red line is directly at 12 o'clock, they say that that should handle the majority of the sewing that you're going to be doing. If I move it right to there, the majority of the sewing you do, according to the manual, you can just leave it right there. The little red line right at the 12 o'clock position. But as you're going through heavier stuff like I did with these leathers and that, you're going to have to look at bumping this up a little bit. And that's why I had it turned a little bit, right about to the 1 o'clock position. I didn't have to crank it way up, but as you look at these little dots and dashes, the narrow dashes over here are going to be less as far as tension. As you go to the wider lines to the left over here, going from 11 to 10 to 9 o'clock position, if you think of it like a clock, over here from 11 to 10 to 9 to 8 maybe down here, that's going to be if you're really needing to crank that tension up. If you're needing to reduce it, you're going to go the opposite way counterclockwise like you would on most and go down into these finer lines over here. So, and as you're coming down off of this single thread guide right up here, you're going to drop down, come around the tension. There's a little built-in spring inside of the upper tension. You have to draw the thread into that and then up to your take-up arm, thread it from right to left. You got a thread guide right here on the front. I can't see where the camera's pointed. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. Got a thread guide right here. And then right above the needle down here, you've got 2 thread points because this machine is capable of doing dual needle sewing. The manual recommends that you draw it in the right side. So you just draw it in, it snaps into place, and then you thread the needle from front to back. And the flat side of the needle is going to go to the back as well. And you don't need a screwdriver to loosen up the presser foot if you decide to take that off to do free motion quilting or something. It's got a built-in little flange here that you can use like a built-in wrench to loosen it and tighten it. So I think that's really a cool feature. And then when you're changing needles, you'll need to use that special screwdriver with a real thin tip. If you try to use a more conventional screwdriver, you won't be able to fit it into that little groove to loosen up the needle and to change it out. What else? Oh, we won't actually do it, but this plate right here is being held by these underneath. There's a little catch on there. And when you want to get into service it, you can open up your plate over here. And you can see that the bobbin is facing up. It's got holes in it, just like the one that was in the storage area on top. When you insert this, you'll put the holes on top. And then when this is turning in there, it's going to be turning counterclockwise. You can see that right there. And get it underneath that tension band. And then you'll be able to jump in and do some fun sewing with it. But make sure those holes are facing up. And yeah, refer to your manual. Your manual is a great resource. The Swiss probably do some of the best manuals that there are. They do excellent manuals. All right, looking at the front of the machine, let me jump into this a little bit. This is going to be our stitch selector. And we have the choice of basically a 3-point zigzag, a blind hem stitch, and then a zigzag or a straight stitch. So basically 4 stitches. And I would recommend that before you try to move this, because it's mechanical, that you take your stitch width, and this also serves as your button holder, that you take your stitch width, and if you're up here having just done like the 3-point zigzag like I did on 3 or 4 or something like that, take it down to 0 so that it pulls that cam finger back, and then you can rotate this more easily and move it from 3-point zigzag where it is right now, maybe over to a blind hem or over to a zigzag. But you just push this left or right, but always do it with the stitch width in the 0 position so that it's not binding and you have to force it, because then you could cause damage to the machine. So I'm going to leave it on zigzag right now. We'll probably do that shortly. Our stitch length is over here. So you can see our stitch length right now is on 3. We can go all the way up to 4. We can go all the way down to 1/2. And you never really realistically would set your stitch length on 0, because then the feed dogs aren't going to move the material at all, and you're going to jam up your hook and cause a big mess down in the raceway. So I wouldn't go any lower than 1/2 and just leave it like that. And then you can go up or down depending on the stitch output that you want. Okay. So over on the side of the machine here, we'll just cover this briefly. There's a control right here. You can see it along with your on-off switch down here. Turns on the power and also turns on the light. But beyond that, there's a control right here. And the Swiss are all about safety. The Swiss love to be safe when you're operating equipment of any type. So if you want to lock the machine, so that it can't start accidentally. All of us have had that happen at one point or another where you bump that foot controller and you didn't mean to do it. You didn't mean to bump the foot controller, but all of a sudden you bump the foot controller and the machine all of a sudden starts to sew. I met a man down here in Kentucky that used to work at a sewing factory, and he literally did that on one of those industrial machines driven by a servo motor. Can you imagine what his finger looked like? So the Swiss want to be extra careful. So they've got a setting right here. They've got 3 settings on the side of here. They've got a 0. They've got 3 little dashes. And then they have what looks like a bobbin on top. I'm going to take my glasses off and see if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. I think you can. So if you want to lock the machine and prevent it from starting accidentally, you rotate this to the little white dot so that it's on the 0, like that. The 0 is in line with the white dot, and then it will, in essence, it will disable the machine so that it can't run. So if you ever get an Elna Lotus of any of the 3 versions, and it has this feature, and for some reason the machine won't run, check that first, because it may be intentionally disabled by Swiss design to keep you safe. Now, if you want to go from 0 and actually go into the sewing, then you rotate it like this, so those 3 dashes are in line with that white dot. And then you'll be in the regular sewing mode. If you want to wind a bobbin, you then have to rotate it one more time over to here, and then it will engage the bobbin winder on top. Let me see if I can do that for you real quick. It's going faster and faster and faster. Like I said, the workshop is only 63 degrees, so this machine is probably going to need a little bit of a warm up. As we're beginning to jump into things. It's chilly out here. So now if we want to go into regular sewing after we wound a bobbin, we then have to rotate this control back over to the 3 dashes. Okay? But if it's in storage and you've got grandchildren or you've got little kiddos or whatever it is, don't be afraid to rotate it to the 0 so that it disables the machine. And that way you'll be extra safe. Okay? That's pretty much a walk around the machine. It's a pretty simple machine. It's not overly complex. And that's a nice thing. It makes it much easier to operator, doesn't it? So, yeah. Okay. Pick this stuff out. I'm going to start with cotton and just give the machine a chance to warm up a little bit since it's super chilly out here. And I could turn the heater up a little bit. I just didn't turn it up as high because when I'm working on machines sometimes, you just get into the things and you're moving around a lot. You start to feel too warm, and I'd rather be a little chilly than too warm, if you know what I mean. Okay, I'm going to jump into this and we will get this going. Okay, so I've got the machine set on the sewing mode. I got it set on the zigzag as far as the stitch selector. I'm going to move our sew-off materials. I've got kind of a little bit of a sew-off pile potentially for us to use today. So I'm going to set this on the other side of the machine so we have a little bit more space. And we will get this machine out of the deep freeze and warming up a little bit for us. Okay, so that's a pretty good shot. I think that's a pretty good shot right there. All right. And I say it all the time, basic tips. People say, let's move to a higher level. Don't go over the basic stuff, but the basic stuff is so important. So, like I say all the time, before we launch, make sure your take-up arm is at the highest position and it's just beginning to begin that downstroke. See that? And that's going to give you the smoothest, easiest launch so that machine has every opportunity to succeed. Okay, so we'll start with, let me see what my settings are at. I think we'll start with a straight stitch. We've got our stitch width already on 0. Our stitch width is on 0, so we're going to be in the straight stitch mode. I'm going to go with a long straight stitch. We'll set it all the way over on 4. And we'll lay down a straight stitch. We'll lay down a smaller straight stitch. And then we'll do a zigzag. And then we'll jump into some of the other decorative stitches or utility stitches, as the manual refers to them, on this Elna SP. I'm going to back up the camera a little bit. Yeah, that's a pretty good shot. I think you can see things pretty well. Okay. Well, I didn't show you the foot controller. Let me show you the foot controller. It's got a little button, almost like the Bakelite style ones for Singer. There's the original Elna foot controller. Remember, the foot controller is electrified. When the machine is turned on, there's electricity running through this foot controller like a gateway. I remember I've been contacted multiple times over the years where someone has tried to do something, clean their foot controller. They didn't shut the machine off. They didn't unplug it. And all of a sudden they got shocked. This is the first place that electricity is going to pass through before it hits the machine. So you'll get a good zap if you're not careful. But if you just remove these 4 screws in each corner, kind of like the top of the machine, take out the 4 screws with the sewing machine unplugged, no electricity charging it, you'll be able to carefully open this up. And there's a lot of service opportunities within this foot controller that you can take care of. And you can use a combination of, probably rubbing alcohol and other non-caustic things to try to get it cleaned up inside of there. But it really is essential that you have, if you don't have a fully serviced foot controller, your machine is not going to reach its full potential, because that's where it all starts. That's where the power is delivered from the foot controller to the machine. And if the foot controller is being held back, you're not going to have a great outcome. You're not going to have a straight stitch. And we'll jump into some other things on Emma's Lotus SP. All right, here we go. Well, she's cold, but she just jumped right at that and said, yeah, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Yeah, beautiful straight stitching. Let me clip these threads and we'll take a look at the stitch quality, which is, Swiss machines, they just do an excellent job when they're running at the top of their game. When they're running at the top of their game, they just do a super duper job. All right, let me bring that back. So this is our straight stitch. This is the largest one. And this Lotus SP is going to have what's called universal presser foot pressure. Even if you take off the faceplate cover right here, there's a single screw that holds the faceplate cover on. Even if you take that off, there's no way to increase or decrease the presser foot pressure on this Lotus SP. That's the only critical point I would make of the Elna innovation and design, is that universal is going to work in many instances pretty well, but there are those instances where you're going to have multiple layers, and you could benefit so greatly by cranking that presser foot pressure up. And on this machine, you can't do it. So you got to love what you got and just work with it as best as you can. So there's our straight stitch. I'm just going to say it. It's page 34. It's as good as you can see it. It's textbook. Absolutely beautiful. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch is just absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. We'll turn it over and look at that lock stitch right away. Start from one end to the other, kind of go across. Lock stitching to me looks like it might, it might be just a little bit on the loose side. It's still a beautiful lock stitch, but it's not as good as it could be. So I would probably adjust that. Again, the Swiss believe in universal this and universal that, so that, they make it easier for the sewist. So they've got this little red mark here on the upper tension, and you're supposed to be able to leave that red mark at the 12 o'clock position for the majority of sewing. That's simply not the case, because as a machine ages, as a machine is used, even if it's got workshop magic and it's restored to greatness, there's still going to be a little bit more. It's like wearing out a pair of shoes. When you first put those shoes on, they're tight. They're not real comfortable. But as you start to wear them, they start to really mold to your foot. And all of a sudden, you've got your favorite pair of shoes because it just fits you like a glove. Well, machines will do that as well. As they start to break in, there's a little bit more gap and dimension in the way those parts are operating. And the result of it is sometimes you've got to go a little bit outside of the boundaries of what the designers and the innovators say that you might need. So I'm just going to give us a little bit of an edge. We're probably right about at the 1 o'clock position right now, approximately. We'll leave it right there, and that should be good for most of our sewing today. But our first sew off is looking really, really good, with the largest of the straight stitches that this Elna Lotus SP can do. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching, and some beautiful lock stitching as well. Now we're going to reduce that stitch length and see if we can lay down another stitch line next to it. We'll jump into a zigzag, and then we'll jump into all of the utility stitches that the SP model has that the two previous Lotus models did not have. So, all right, let's lay down another straight stitch next to it. I'm just going to reduce our stitch length right over here. This again is going to be our stitch length, our stitch width, our stitch selector. So I'm going to take us down from 4 down to about 2. We'll lay down another stitch line, and then we'll lay down a zigzag, and then we'll jump into those utility stitches after that. With some really good looking stitching, really, really good looking stitching. All right, get my take up arm all the way up. Right now you can see it's not all the way up. I'm going to rotate it up, 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 up. There we go. And now we'll lay down that smaller straight stitch. We'll see how and listen to this machine running again. I'm not going to go super like blazing fast. I'm just going to go probably about middle of the foot controller. But listen to how smoothly it runs, and listen to that reserve of power compared to what it had when it arrived here, where it was just vroom, 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 vroom. I mean, just dragging its heels, slow, barely running. All right, another straight stitch, and then we'll jump into the utilities. Here we go. I had a little bit of fun kind of throttling it up and down there. Oh, it's so great to have a machine come back to a point where it's happy again, isn't it? We all know that sewing machines have personalities, and they are just bummed out when they're not doing what they were designed to do. Don't you agree? When they're not doing what they were designed to do, they're just bummed out. They're like, gee whiz. All right, let's check out this smaller straight stitch now. Let me bring the camera up a little bit. Get that in front of the camera. Give the camera a chance to focus. There we go. Kind of go across there so you can see the stitching. And as you go to a smaller stitch like this, let me give you a valuable tip. And the tip has nothing to do with the camera saying, I don't want to focus on that right now. Let me give you a valuable tip. As you go smaller or shorter on the stitching, you're going to need more tension from that bobbin case pulling down than you are from the upper tension pulling up. So remember, we just made that adjustment with the upper tension and kind of turned it up a little bit. It actually took a little bit away from our top stitch. It took a little bit away from our top stitch. I'm going to move over here. I'm having trouble seeing my laptop screen. There we go. So some really, really good looking stitching. But again, if you're going to be stitching at this scale right here with a smaller, shorter straight stitch, back off your upper tension just a little bit. Back off your upper tension just a little bit. You're going to need to have that to tighten up that top stitch just a little bit more. Let's take a look at that lock stitch now. So our lock stitching, come across here. And we're only at 2 right now on the stitch length. We could go all the way down to a half. Imagine how small that would be. Teeny, teeny, tiny, really tiny. And we're working with a Schmetz size 90 needle. We're going to be doing a lot of real intricate small stitching like that. We might want to consider going to a smaller needle. When the machine came in, it had a size 80 needle, which is a size 12. So that would be something to consider doing, is going to a smaller specialty needle, maybe an embroidery needle, if you're going to be doing a lot of real fine stitching. Because you'll get a better pronounced stitch if you're not dealing with more of a harpoon size needle, like a size 90, 100, or 110. So, all right, let's put this back in underneath the presser foot with that universal presser foot pressure. Not a fan of it, but that's okay. The Swiss did a lot of good things with design, so I'll forgive the fact that they didn't give us any control over that presser foot pressure. And now we're going to move into a zigzag stitch after this. Just trying to get that lined up a little bit better. So we've already got our stitch selector set on zigzag, but our stitch width is on 0 right now. So we need to decide what we're going to do. I think we're going to take it up to the max, all the way up to 4. And I'll tell you as well, when you're sewing an incredibly small straight stitch, or when you're sewing an incredibly wide zigzag stitch or decorative stitch at a setting of 4, you're going to need more upper tension. So it's the opposite. If you're sewing a real teeny tiny stitch like we did here, you're going to need less upper tension. If you're sewing a zigzag stitch or a utility stitch that requires that zigzag feature, you're going to need more upper tension. So I'm just going to give us a slight edge, just a little bit of an edge. We're still close to the 1 o'clock position, pretty close to it, getting closer to the 2 o'clock position now, because we're going to be going into some real wide zigzagging now, and we need that upper tension just to give us a little bit of a boost for that lock stitch. Okay? So let's lay down a zigzag now. And then we'll go to a smaller scale zigzag, or when it's less wide. And then we'll jump into the blind hem stitch and the 3-point zigzag after that. All right, are you ready? All right, here goes the zigzag. Here we go. Make sure my material's not caught underneath there. All right. Yeah, it's a good looking zigzag. Yeah, and I'm glad even with that adjustment we did to the upper tension, because it's at the widest setting, we could have gone probably to position 3, probably to 3 on the upper tension, just to give a little bit more pull to tighten up that lock stitch a little bit more. You're going to see what I mean when we look at the zigzag on the lock stitch. It's just a little bit on the weak side. Let me just clip these real quick. Just a little bit weak. So here's our top stitching first for that zigzag we just did. Again, we did it at the 4 setting. And, you know, if you have, let me do this. There we go. So it's a beautiful zigzag. The peaks and the spacing and everything on it is just absolutely spot on. Really, really good looking zigzag. Very, very nice. Move over closer to the laptop. Having a little bit of an issue with the camera going out of focus. I think it's probably the settings I have on it, but I'll slow down a little bit. I think I'm moving it too fast for the camera. So a beautiful zigzag, right? Really nice looking zigzag. We turn it over. We've got the makings of a really good zigzag lock stitch, but it's a little bit on the loose side. You'll see what I mean. Even though we made that slight adjustment. See that on the end over there? At the widest zigzag settings, you're going to need more upper tension. We adjusted it up, but we didn't go far enough. Yep, it's too loose. It's too loose. So I think we'll try adjusting the upper tension just a little bit more. We'll stitch off the same stitch one more time and see what impact we can bring to tighten up that lock stitch, okay? Just make sure I put the material down right. Yep, we'll put it down like this. We'll stitch off that same zigzag at its widest setting, and we'll just increase our upper tension a little bit. And that's where I say you can have a great idea, but it's not always going to work with having this red line here, where the Swiss say 99% of the time you can leave it right there and you're going to get the result you want. That's simply not the case, because again, as the machine ages, it's going to need just a little bit more tolerance to tighten it up. So now I've moved it a little bit further to the right. I'd say we're probably real close to the, what is that, the 3 o'clock position or something like that? 12, 1, 2. Well, we're not even to the 3 o'clock position. That's closer to the 3 o'clock position right there. We're going to stitch off the same zigzag at the widest setting. We've got it, let's see here. Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Okay. We'll sew it off again at the widest setting. We've got it on 4 right now. And we'll see if we can have an impact adjusting that upper tension to tighten up that lock stitch. Okay. All right, here we go. Same stitch, just an upper tension adjustment. I also slowed it down a little bit. That's another thing that will help when you're dealing with an incredibly wide stitch, is just slow down your rate of sewing a little bit. Same thing is true when you're dealing with a press foot pressure that you don't really have any control over. You're going to have to adjust that speed a little bit to accommodate the fact that you don't have as much pressure foot pressure as you need or as you want. Okay, so I'm just going to clip these threads and we'll see if we made an impact. It's possible we still didn't go far enough. We can always assume that we can adjust it further. So there's our second line with that zigzag at its widest point. You can kind of go like this. Very, very good looking zigzag again. We compromised the top stitching at all. Very, very good looking stitch. We turn it over, see what impact we brought to that lock stitching. See what impact we brought to that lock stitching. Yeah, we're closer, but we still could go just a little bit further. You see that? We certainly have tightened it up. We're almost there. We're almost there. But we could even go a little bit further. I should have probably gone all the way to the 3 o'clock position on this widest setting for the zigzag. But it's definitely a step in the right direction. So just remember, when you're doing a wide stitch, you need more upper tension. When you're doing a real short, straight stitch like this one here, you're going to need less upper tension. But we're heading in the right direction with this Elna Lotus SP to get the outcomes that we want. All right, let's move now to the blind hem stitch. Let's move over to the blind hem stitch. And again, what I would recommend when you're changing between the stitches on this Lotus model, that you take your stitch width all the way down to 0. It pulls that finger back, and then you can move this stitch selector without it binding and causing potential damage to the cam stack. So I'm just going to rotate it over there. Now we're set on the blind hem stitch. We're going to take our stitch width back to 4. And we're going to take our stitch length down to right around 1. With a blind hem, you want to go with a little bit shorter on the stitch length to kind of get the right form of that blind hem stitch. We'll lay down this stitch and we'll take a look at this next. All right, get my take-up arm all the way up. All right, we're laying down a blind hem stitch now with this Elna Lotus SP. Here we go. Oh, just check I sometimes sew over the back of the material. I think all of us have done that. Here we go. I'll speed her up a little bit. That's probably only about a quarter of the way down in the foot controller. I mean, you can race with this puppy if you want. You can definitely race. All right, let's take a look at this stitching. So this is our top stitching first. Yep, that's our top stitching. We'll take a look at this blind hem type stitch that's built into the machine. And again, this Lotus model, the SP, was the first Lotus model to offer a blind hem stitch. The other two didn't have it. The middle one had the zigzag. The other one was only a straight stitch. And then all of a sudden, this SP model came out after the Lotus series was introduced in 1968. And all of a sudden, you could do a lot more utility type sewing. See if I can get closer. See what the camera will do if I get really close. I'll freak it out here. There we go. I think it's going out of focus though, isn't it? I better back up a little bit. So some really, really good stitching out of this Elna Lotus SP. That's our blind hem again. We'll turn it over, look at that lock stitching. And again, with a blind hem stitch, because we went with a shorter stitch length, we're not going to be battling that upper tension as much as with that super wide zigzag. See if I can get this lined up here. Trying to see, that's out of focus, isn't it? Is it? Oh, there we go. There we go. And maybe that's not a blind hem stitch. I may have misquoted it. I'll have to look at the manual. It looks like a blind hem stitch on the stitch selector. But again, depending on the stitch length and the stitch width you choose for a particular stitch, you can totally change the look of it, right? Totally change the look of it. But some really good stitching. We'll kind of go totality here. There's our lock stitching and our top stitching. So let's move now into the 3-point zigzag. That's our last stitch that's on this SP. And we'll lay down a 3-point zigzag on this material. And then we'll jump into some other material sewing. I just wanted to give the machine a chance to warm up after being in a cold workshop. And I think she's ready to go. She's like, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay, so again, if we're going to do a 3-point zigzag, we want to take our stitch width down to 0. Take it all the way down to 0. That'll pull that reader finger down and away from the cam stack. We can then take our stitch selector here. And sometimes you just, on these, they're a little bit stiff. You got to kind of work it back and forth to get where you want to go. There we go. There's our 3-point zigzag now. We're going to take our stitch width all the way back to 4. And then our stitch length, I think we'll go up to 2 just to try a little bit something different. So our stitch width is on 4, stitch length 2, and now we're going to be laying down a 3-point zigzag as the final utility stitch that they added to this SP model that the ZZ model did not have. And the previous model, before the ZZ model, didn't have that either. I think that was the EC model, wasn't it? Yeah, the EC model. So EC, ZZ, SP. Again, could make a real good rap song out of that, no doubt. Okay, so here goes our 3-point zigzag stitch. Yeah. Yeah, I like that one. That looks really good. Looks really, really good. Here's our 3-point zigzag, our top stitching. I'm not even going to move the camera because every time I move the camera, it gets crazy. 3-point zigzag. Here's our lock stitch. Back of that 3-point zigzag, equally beautiful. And again, you'll notice, unlike the regular zigzag stitch where there's bridging points and it only has support on 3 corners. It only has three corners of support with a standard zigzag stitch. With a 3-point zigzag, because it has those additional support points in the stitching process, you don't have to battle that upper tension and that stitch balance tension factor nearly as much using this type of a modified zigzag, the 3-point zigzag. So it's a lot easier to stitch using that stitch than it is the standard zigzag. Think of it like a bridge. You only have 3 support trusses to support that bridge. Here you've got 6 support trusses to support that bridge. So it just works out much easier in getting the job done. Yeah. So stitching again, that's our top stitching. You already saw that. Yeah, so some beautiful stitching. And that's all the stitching apart from a buttonhole that you can do with this Lotus SP, but it was a step up from the EC and the ZZ, where originally you can only do a straight stitch, and they added the zigzag with the ZZ model, and then finally they added that blind hem stitch, at least that's what I'm calling it, and they added the 3-point zigzag to this last in the series of the Lotus models, the SP model. So yeah, it does an excellent job. I wish certain things were different about the design of the machine, like the presser foot pressure, and also maybe having a little bit more thread guide support. When you've got a thread guide, a single one on top, that's all you have to direct the feed of that thread coming off the top of the machine. As you sew at a higher rate of speed, you can run into problems with the thread getting caught underneath the spool, getting misrouted as far as this thread guide up here. So, I mean, it's an excellent machine, but you can always make things better. We say it all the time, right? The CANI principle, C-A-N-I. Does anyone remember what that stands for? Where we look at something and we go, that's amazing, that's beautiful, that's gorgeous stitching by this SP model, but we always say we can make it better, right? What is the CANI principle? What's the CANI principle? Does anyone remember? What is the CANI principle? C-A-N-I. Yeah. Yeah. Brownie points to Mrs. Geller. Um, it's constant and never ending improvement. And I've got to give credit to someone other than myself. That's actually a concept that I learned when I was working as a corporate person with PepsiCo way back in the day with their restaurant divisions. Back in the day, Pepsi owned Taco Bell. If you're a Taco Bell person, you can give credit to Pepsi because they developed that brand. If you like Kentucky Fried Chicken, like we do down in Kentucky, uh, you can give credit to PepsiCo because they were the ones that came up with the PepsiCo version of Kentucky Fried Chicken. They came out with Hot and Now, which was like a drive-through. They came out with a number of other restaurants that are household names. And they were the ones that in my corporate training, when we were learning new principles in that, they talked about Kanai all the time, all the time. Every meeting, Kanai came up so that no one ever sat back on their backside and said, we're as good as we can be. If you get into that mentality, you're as good as you can be today, you're not going to be any better tomorrow. So in this setting, we always look at something with a great deal of scrutiny, and we say, it's a beautiful 3-point zigzag. That's a really good looking blind hem stitch. That's a really good looking zigzag stitch. Nice looking straight stitching, but we can make it better by adjusting certain things on the machine to give that machine the opportunity to succeed, right? Okay, I don't know why I put that back underneath there. We're done with the 100% cotton with a stiffener now. I'm going to throw this to the side, and this will go back with the machine to Emma, and she'll have this extra space over here to do some more stitching when the machine arrives down in Florida. All right, so let's move to some other materials now. And before I do that, I'm going to take a little break and get something to drink. If you want to get something to drink as well, I'll put on a little bit more music, and then we'll jump into some sew-offs to get us heading towards the finish line. Looks like we've been running about an hour and 30 minutes, but we covered a lot in this live stream so far, so that's okay. All right. I think we're done with the Brazilian Cuban music right now. Let me see if I can find something else. See if we can find something else. Maybe we'll put on some Asian style music to recognize that the new owners of Elna are in Japan. Let me see if I can find some Japanese style music. I know I've got it on here somewhere. There we go. It's a real short piece, so I better drink my tea quickly. All right, I'm going to pause the music real quick. I'm going to show you, this is a type of Italian leather. Italian leather is incredibly popular in garment making. You'll find it with jackets. You'll find it with some purses. And you might even find it with wallet making as well, because it's supple and it's easy to work with. Much easier to work with than this beautiful wallet that Candido and Rachel made as a special gift to me. Candido said it numerous times. He says, I learned so much coming to the classroom. It lifts my spirit. It gives me a sense of excitement about vintage sewing machines that I never had before. And it gives me the confidence to be able to begin to explore my own sewing machines and step out there, confidently that I can try to improve on servicing them and doing other things to make them better. And that's really the purpose of this classroom, is to inspire others to do what I do, so that you can become a little wizard, if you will, a little wizard or a little wizardess, whatever they would be, and be able to make your machines greater. But again, a wonderful gift from Candido that he and Rachel had offered to me as a thank you for what we do here in the classroom. I think I owe more thanks to all of you than you owe to me, because I learned from you every single class that we gather together. It's really a blessing to learn together, isn't it? So we're going to try to do 2 layers of this Italian leather. I did not pre-test this, and sometimes I'll bite off more than I can chew, but we're looking at probably about 5 ounces of leather. And again, if you look at the nap, it's got a real woody style nap. It's real thick. And so it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for that needle to pass through, especially with 2 layers. But I think we'll do okay. So we're going to try to buzz down it with the 3-point zigzag, which we're already set on. And then we'll maybe jump to some of the other leathers. I'm cognizant of the fact that we also have to do the unboxing of the special items that Sibel sent from Brooklyn, New York. And it just was such a wonderful fit to receive that generous gift from Sibel from Brooklyn, New York, as I was getting ready to present this Elna Lotus SP from Florida that belongs to Emma, because again, the Elna company was one of the only, if not the only company that was so innovative in their designing that they were inducted into the New York Museum of Modern Art's Design Collection Series. I mean, that is like one of the highest honors you can get as a designer of anything. And to have a sewing machine company receive that recognition, a Swiss-based sewing company like Elna, what a feather in their cap, right? What a feather in their cap. All right, so let's give this Italian leather a try, and we'll be able to see if that restored power is enough to drive us home. The only thing that makes me a little bit uneasy is normally when we're sewing leather like this, we would bump that pressure foot pressure up, right? Automatically, we would bump that pressure foot pressure up. And on this machine, because it's got that universal preset that's supposed to, based on what you're sewing, we just have to cross our fingers and toes and hope that it does what it's supposed to do, right? Hope that it does what it's supposed to do. All right, 2 layers of Italian leather, and we're going to be laying down the 3-point zigzag. All right, here we go. Come on, baby. Yeah, there we go. I didn't have my foot on there very well. Didn't have my foot on that foot controller too well to start out with, but we eventually got her done. All right, let me get that needle all the way up and we'll take a look at this. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. That's some beautiful stitching. Italian leather is a tricky leather to work with. It truly is. Let's clip these threads and take a look at this a little bit closer. Very, very nice. Okay, I'm going to step over near the laptop so I can actually see the screen. Let me back up a little bit. Maybe that'll help the camera. It's having a heck of a time focusing on that, isn't it? Maybe if I do this with my hand. There we go. This camera is not happy today. Not happy with the colors, at least. Let me try it vertically. Maybe that'll help it a little bit. Apparently it likes the vertical, huh? Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Through 2 layers of Italian leather, about 5 ounces of leather. Just around 5 ounces of leather. And a lovely, lovely top stitch on that. Very, very nice. And you can see the thickness of that leather. Just one piece of it is crazy thick. So we're going to turn it over now. Look at that lock stitch. This is our lock stitching on the back of here. See if we can get the camera to cooperate with that. Some really, really nice lock stitching as well. And again, we're not sewing with a leather needle. We're sewing with basically a universal needle that's designed for a wide variety of materials. It's not designed exclusively for leather. It does not have a sharp cutting point. And so we would get even a better result if we were to use one of the Schmetz leather sewing needles. Very, very nice. Again, from the side, that's what we just sewed through. Actually, now I'm looking at it, it's probably closer to 7 ounces of leather. But some beautiful, beautiful stitching, top stitching, and lock stitching alike. And I'll leave the rest of this space open for Emma, so when she gets the machine down in Florida, she can try stitching this Italian leather as well. Okay, so let me move into some other materials. We'll kind of move around a little bit. Let's try a little bit of denim now. Actually, you know what? Let's do canvas. Let's try going down some canvas. And I've got 4 layers of canvas that are prepared. I've got 4 layers of canvas prepared. I'm going to start because I did not pre-test this on this Lotus SP, and some machines have a little bit more of an appetite, a little bit more of a tolerance for canvas. Other machines, they absolutely hate it. So I'm going to try 2 layers, and then we'll go from 2 layers up to 4 layers potentially if we get a great outcome. And I'm going to change our stitch as well. And like I've covered before, when you're changing stitches on this Elna, make sure that you take that stitch width down to 0. And then I'm going to move that stitch selector from a 3-point zigzag over to a regular zigzag. Let's do a regular zigzag on this canvas. And this is U.S. Army grade canvas. I took it from an old shelter half that I got from a surplus store. We'll do a zigzag, and then we'll lay down a straight stitch next to it. And we'll see how this machine, what kind of appetite it has for this type of material. Canvas is a very specialized material, and some machines do real well with it. Other machines don't do quite as well. All right, let me get this underneath the presser foot. We'll start with 2 layers, and then we'll go up 2 more layers beyond that. So I'm on zigzag with my stitch selector. I'm going to go ahead and take our stitch width. I'm not going to go quite as wide on this. We'll go to about 3. And then we'll balance our stitch length a little bit. We'll go to right around 2.5. So we got 3 stitch width, 2.5 stitch length. And we've got our zigzag all set up. So we're going to see if we can lay down a zigzag first of all on this canvas material, this Army shelter half material. And then after that, we will see if we can bump it up to 4. There we go. That's a little bit better shot. All right, here we go. 2 layers, and then we'll try to swing at 4 after that. Here we go. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. That's our lock. I was looking at the lock stitching right away to see if our upper tension was pulling hard enough. It looks like it did an excellent job, but we also went from the widest zigzag down to almost the widest. We're at 3 instead of 4. And that makes life a little bit easier when you're looking at the support factor of only 3 contact points for that needle to support that stitch alignment. So some really, really good looking stitching with this standard zigzag. And then we've got the top stitching with this standard zigzag also looking incredibly good looking. So we'll try the 4 layers, see how the Elna handles that. I know it's got enough power, but I don't know if it's going to like, depending on the hook design in that, how well it's going to handle that thicker, denser material of a canvas nature. Let's see. Let me move this over here. Well, I hope all of you are doing well. We are getting in the thick of fall now here in Kentucky. We've had quite a bit of rain, and the locals always say rain is better than snow, especially when you're up in the mountains like we are. But the bad thing about the rain is that it will end the fall season. Oh, I need to add those extra 2 layers. Okay, so we got 2 layers right now. I was getting into my fall speech and I forgot what I was doing. So anyway, we've got 4 layers of this. And with all the rain we've been getting, it's knocking a lot of those beautiful leaves down. So we're going to be losing our fall leaves much sooner than we expected, I think, this year. But last year we had little or no fall leaves as far as color. So I'm grateful. I know Susie is grateful as well for having a season now where we can enjoy those fall colors much more. Now, I'm not going to make any changes to this Elna Lotus SP. The stitch width is still at 3. The stitch length is still on 2.5. And, we're going up to 4 layers of canvas now. We're going to have to rely on that universal presser foot pressure to hopefully keep this material feeding evenly and straight and keep it moving. So here we go, 4 layers of this canvas, and we will see. We're not going to make any changes to our upper tension either. See if we can maintain the integrity of that zigzag stitch. All right? Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to stop right there. And we did. We got some decent feed from that universal feed. And we also maintained some beautiful stitch integrity going up 2 times the thickness of this U.S. Army grade canvas. So I'm going to leave the threads attached a little bit so we can distinguish those 2 rows more easily. On the back side, it's going to be easy because we're only going to have 1 row. We'll take a look at these 2. Bring it down right there. Some beautiful stitch formation, really, really good looking stitching. Even on the second one, when we were passing through those 2 additional layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. And then as we flip it over, I'll kind of turn it slowly. See those 4 layers of canvas. And there's our lock stitching on the back, which is really, really gorgeous lock stitching, page 34. So maybe a tip or advice or a suggestion is if you're sewing with one of these Elna Lotus models, whether it's the EC, the ZZ, or the SP, like this one here being the SP, you might not want to go full max on that zigzag unless you really wanted to goof around and try to get that upper tension in a sweet spot where it's going to manage those support points of that zigzag when you go super wide. Does that make sense? So we still have a beautiful zigzag. It's still very robust, but instead of being on 4, we went to 3, and all of a sudden our headache of trying to balance that lock stitch tension and get that sweet spot between the top and the lock stitch is eliminated. Beautiful, beautiful lock stitching and beautiful top stitching on these 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to throw this to the back as well in our stack, which is growing. We've already done U.S. Army grade canvas. We've done Italian leather. We've done this genuine cowhide. It's kind of a full grain cowhide. We've done all these stitches here on 100% cotton with a stiffener. And now we're going to jump into some other materials on top of that and then try to wrap this up and get into that unboxing for Sibel's generous gift from Brooklyn, New York. Again, New York being the place that Elna received the highest honors from the New York Museum of Modern Art Design. They have one of their machines sitting in there, the Lotus model. I believe it's going to be the EC model, which was the first one they rolled out in 1968. But it sure would be fun. Sibel lives in New York. So Sibel, that we're going to be opening that really cool gift that she sent to the workshop right over there. Sibel would be able to go to that Museum of Modern Art Design and actually look at that Elna machine that's sitting in there. That would be super cool. She could take some pictures of it or a video of it and then send it to me so I could share it with all of you. I'm kind of giving Sibel a hint that she might consider doing that, but I know she's a busy lady, so I won't hang all my apples on that tree unless she finds the extra time to potentially do it. But that would be fun, wouldn't it? Otherwise, Susie and I are going to take a trip out to New York and see that place for ourselves. Of course, Rachel and Candido also live in New York, not too far from the academy where I was stationed. And maybe they'll also decide to take a trip possibly to the New York Museum of Modern Art Design. That would be super cool, I think. Yeah. Okay. What should I sew next? I've got some ribbon material. Maybe I'll try sewing this ribbon material. We've gone kind of heavy duty. And now as we're approaching the holidays and approaching Christmas and Hanukkah, this would be a neat material to try doing some stitching on. And I'll probably go back to, maybe I'll go to the, what I'm calling a 3-point zigzag and see if I can make that really narrow and lay down a narrow 3-point zigzag on here to see what that might look like on a light material like this ribbon material. And also now we'll be able to test that universal feed dog or presser foot pressure to see how the feed dogs can manage this material with it being so sheer and so light. I mean, it's just like, it's almost like sewing rice paper, sort of, kind of. Let's see. Just going to check the manual real quick to see if I can double check if that is if I'm giving that the correct name as far as a zigzag. Let's see. I don't know if the manual is going to tell me. Yeah, I'm correct. That is a blind hem stitch. Yeah. They're calling it overcasting stitch or a blind hem stitch. And they're also giving it the name of an edging stitch as well. So we're going to set that edging stitch on now. We have to first of all make some changes to the machine. We're going to take our stitch width and take it all the way down to 0 before we move the stitch selector. We'll move our stitch selector now over to the blind hem. And we're going to take our stitch width all the way back to 4. Actually, you know what? I think we'll do it on 3, between 3 and 4. And then we're going to take our stitch length all the way down to 1.5. All the way down to 1.5. So our stitch length is 1.5. Our stitch width is right around 3.5. And then we're going to try this blind hem stitch on this very sheer ribbon material to see how we do. It's done really well on cotton and leather and on canvas. Now we'll see how it does on this ribbon material, which is almost exclusively, let me grab the actual casing. Yeah, it's 100% polyester. 100% polyester. Made in China. Haha. So 100% polyester, made in China. And polyester is a little bit challenging to sew, isn't it? A little bit challenging to sew. We'll see how this Elna does with it. All right. All right, here we go. Oh, hold on, hold on. Camera's pointing in the wrong direction. Sorry about that. All right. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. I hope you'll be able to see this on the camera. That is some beautiful stitching. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching. See if I can bring it up a little bit closer so you can see it in the shot, hopefully. And this ribbon material that I'm using is vintage. I think the price on it was like 99 cents or something like that, or it was real cheap. Very, very nice. Let me clip the thread and I'll see if I can get it up there, and we'll look at the lock stitch as well. But 100% polyester, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge to sew something like that. It truly is. But this machine just did an excellent job with it. This Lotus SP model out of Florida that belongs to Emma. A machine that was barely turning when it came into the workshop. And now it's got a reserve of power that will just blow your socks off. I'm going to go all the way up here, see if that light will help us a little bit, hopefully. Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely gorgeous. We got our lock stitch. We'll turn it over, look at the lock stitching, see how we did as far as that tension factor dealing with 100% polyester. Excellent, excellent stitch formation, spacing. And to give some credit to that universal presser foot pressure, it did a good job of feeding this material without causing any puckering or any bunching. Even something as sheer as this, it moved over those feed dogs beautifully. And it laid down some gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. So yeah, I mean, if you go into a thrift shop or something like that, I think that's where I got this stuff. If you go into a thrift shop, you can find some really neat vintage ribbon type stuff, like this stuff that came from Target back in the day. This is a velvet type ribbon. $1.29 for a full roll of this stuff. 2.5 inches wide, 6 feet long, 2 yards for $1.29. Back in the day, I got this from one of the thrift shops back in Wisconsin and brought it. And it's kind of funny. I paid $1.03. I paid $1.03 for it. And back when it was sold originally, they sold it for $1.29. So I think I got the short end of that stick, but I got some really cool velvet ribbon to be able to potentially do sew-offs with. And I've got other ribbons as well, and I'm sure Susie has a number of them in her sewing suite as well, but really, really some lovely stuff to stitch on. So I'm going to throw that back as well. And what else do I have? Oh, I just showed you that velvet ribbon. I actually have some of that cut. This is actually velvet, but it's got kind of a plastic backing on it. You can see that. We can actually try stitching down this velvet. I'll probably cut it in half because I've got a huge piece right now. And there'll still be more than enough space for Emma to do some stitching on it when it gets down to Florida. So I think I'll cut it right down the middle. And I'm using my, to give a plug to our friend at Guggenheim. I'm using the, what are these, the 9-inch? 9-inch professional tailoring shears. They just cut anything like butter, even if you're cutting leather. They do a brilliant job. They're made incredibly well. You can see how they're engineered. We're talking about Elna today getting that special award from the New York Museum of Design, Modern Design. And Guggenheim does a brilliant job of designing quality shears or scissors just as well. I think they're deserving of credit for it. And it might surprise some of you to know that these Guggenheim shears are actually made in China. And there are some really amazing, gorgeous quality things that are made in the country of China. And it certainly would be these shears. They do a fabulous job. Trying to get my camera to focus on the name if it'll do it. Yeah. All right, let's try this velvet material with a plastic backing. And we'll go over to, maybe we'll lay down a 3-point zigzag on it. Or we could lay down a zigzag, just a standard zigzag on it. We'll go right down the middle. So I'm going to take my stitch width down to 0. So now I can adjust my stitch selector here. I'll take it over to zigzag. Take my stitch width back up to, I'm going to go to about, I want to make it a little bit more ornamental, not quite as wide and bulky. So I'm going to take it to 2.5 on the stitch width. And I'm going to take the stitch length to right around 2. And again, you can experiment with this however you want to experiment with it. You don't have to follow my exact thing. If you pick up some of this vintage velvet ribbon and you go, I'm going to do exactly the way Scott did it, you can do that. But you can also choose your own stitch width and your own stitch length, because you can change the look of the stitch completely. It's just a totally different looking stitch. So lay down a zigzag on this now. Let me make sure my take-up arm's all the way up. On this velvet, I'll just call it velvet Christmas type material. And we'll see how this Lotus SP does with a very, very delicate sew off. Got like fuzz on there. This thing is molting. All right, here we go. And I'll take this just a little bit faster since we're not dealing with this wider one. That way you can get an appreciation for the vitality that I was able to give this machine, again, with a lot of elbow grease and some workshop magic. Here we go. I wasn't going as fast as I probably could have. Could have gone faster with that, but that's okay. That is some pretty material to sew on, isn't it? Let's pull that thread a little bit further. Beautiful. Beautiful stitching. I kind of made a mountain range, kind of like out here in Kentucky. Looks more like a mountain range. It doesn't have quite as sharp of a peak. It's more subtle, isn't it? Some beautiful stitching by this Elna SP that came from that 3-machine series that started in 1968 and received one of the highest honors by being inducted into the New York Museum of Art Design. Yeah, let's look at the lock stitch. Beautiful lock stitching as well. Very, very nice lock stitching. And again, if you don't go crazy wide on a zigzag, you don't have to fuss around as much with that upper tension. It makes the ease of sewing a little bit nicer. But some beautiful stitching by this Elna SP with 2 layers of 100% polyester ribbon material with a velvet top layer on it. All right, let me put a little bit of music on, give my voice a few seconds to rest, and then we'll wrap up this this part of the live stream focusing on Emma's machine, and we'll shift our focus over to a special package from Brooklyn, New York, that was generously sent as a thank you by Sibel after I got done with the Frankenstein project, taking her just awful Singer 404 from eBay and partnering it with one of our machines from my collection and taking the best from the eBay machine and putting it all together with one machine. A major project. But when you saw the results of that live stream, if you missed that live stream, you want to look it up, because the way that machine performed was just, you've got to be kidding. And it made everything look so easy. It made everything look so easy. You did an excellent job. Okay, a little bit of music. If you have to make a bathroom stop, go ahead and do that. If you want to grab something to drink, go ahead and do that. And we will be quickly moving towards wrapping up the sewing side of this and then getting into unpackaging the special gifts that Sibel sent. All right, I'm going to stop that music. Again, to explain, if you joined us late or if you're watching this later and you're saying, why is he playing Japanese type music? It's again because the Elna Sewing Machine Company that was founded right around 1934, they were in business for a relatively brief time. I mean, if you look at it in the scope of other sewing machine companies like Singer that recently celebrated their 170th anniversary. Of course, Singer has also been bought out by, I believe, a Chinese company since it had its heyday in 1851. But they come on the scene in 1934, and by 1996, they're no longer the same company. They're bought out by Janome, a Japanese company. So, it's a relatively brief time to be branding your own product before you're taken over and another company starts branding it for you. I guess they ran into financial difficulties and other things in operating, maybe because of the way they were tooling their machines or who knows what, but they ended up having to sell or potentially lose their business. So I think they made the right decision because Janome is still making Elna, and they're still making some decent machines. Not quite to the quality of the Lotus SP, but they're giving a swing at it. So, all right, let's sew some paper, and then I'll wrap this up, the sewing machine side, by doing a leather sew off, kind of around in circles with Emma's machine as best as I'm able. We're starting with 4 layers of this Amazon Prime packing parchment paper. You kind of see that from the side. We got 4 layers. And I'm going to fold it over. Now, you that are really good at math, help me out here, would you? I'm going to fold it and tell me in the live chat how many layers we have, would you? Tell me how many layers we have, because I always mess up my math. Susie, thank goodness, is really good at math. I'm not. So we're starting with 4. We're going to fold it. We're up to 8, right? Now we're up to 12. And what is this, 16? Am I right? Is that 16 layers? 16 layers of paper? I think we're at 16 layers of paper. Can someone confirm that? Someone confirm, I think we're at 16 layers of paper. And if you think going through 16 layers of paper is easy, the next time you get an Amazon Prime package, or you get another package at home, and they give you a big box full of this type of paper, go ahead and try it on your sewing machine. Try it on your sewing machine. See if your machine can get through 16 layers of paper. And that really is a testimony of power and precision, and also workshop magic, being able to get through that. The only other thing, you know what, I did forget to point out one thing, and the Swiss are very proud of this. The Swiss are very proud of this, and I almost messed up by not mentioning it during this live stream, because others copied them, including our friends in Sweden that have a company called Husqvarna. They copied the Swiss design and started, made a couple little subtle changes to it, and then they called it their design, but it really wasn't. The Swiss came out with it first, and it was called a pyramid style feed dog design. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get close enough to it to show you, but I'm going to do my best to do that. Hold on real quick. Maybe if I shut the light off, that'll help too. Hold on. I can't see. Yeah, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it towards the front there. But it is one of the finest designs ever for feed dogs, because it's got so many nodules that grab the material and feed it evenly and prevent slippage, that it moves material like no other feed dogs I've ever sewn on ever have. It just does a fabulous job. Fabulous, fabulous job. So I had to mention that because the Swiss are incredibly proud of that design. Let me get back to my 16. What did I have? 16 layers? I think so. See if I can get underneath the presser foot. And between those pyramid style feed dogs. See, even as I try to push the paper in, if you listen real carefully, you can hear them biting into that paper. Hear that? Kind of grabbing the bottom of the paper and saying, I got this. I got this. All right, I'm going to drop down that presser foot. And we're going to do our best to try to buzz through this at a reasonable rate of speed. I'm not going to go pedal to the metal, but I want to go down it fairly rapidly. We're laying down a blind hem stitch. And this edge stitch is going to be at a setting on the width of 3 and on the length of 1. So it is going to be an incredibly compact looking stitch when it gets down to the end. I'll see if I might just adjust it up to like 1.25. So I'm not running at this for the next half hour. All right, here we go. Give a listen, give a look, and check out this 16 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. Here we go. All right, I'm going to go for it now. You see that I'm not even holding the material. But those pyramid style feed dogs that were made by the Swiss first, and then were adapted by their companies, do a fabulous job of keeping that material centered and straight as it's feeding, even if you're not holding on to it. Oh, very nice. Wow. I got to hit my little easy button because this Elna really made that look easy, didn't it? Let me set that right there for a second, and we'll take a look at these. I know it's around here somewhere.
That was easy.
16 layers. 16 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. And this little Elna with a fairly big bite and a good sized motor just literally mowed through this stuff and laid down a beautiful, beautiful stitch. It looks ornamental because of the way we sized it. Because we didn't go with a standard looking type blind hem stitch, we kind of compressed it down a little bit. It has kind of an ornamental, you could use it as a beautiful edge stitch and really dress up a garment, couldn't you? Let me see if I can get fairly close to this so you can see it real nice. Very, very nice. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. Isn't that gorgeous? Leaping lizards. That is beautiful. Beautiful from start to finish. And this Schmetz needle I'm sewing with, the size 90-14, has already gotten a crazy, crazy workout. And it's still sewing strong, complementing what this Swiss machine is able to do. Let's turn over and look at the lock stitch. Here's our lock stitching on the back. It's always fun to see the punch through as that needle punches through those 16 layers of paper. It leaves a damage trail behind, doesn't it? See that? It leaves a damage trail behind. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look at it from the side. See if I can show it to you like this. 16 layers of parchment paper. 16 layers of parchment paper. Camera eventually will focus. I know it will. Haha. Well, you can kind of see it, even though the camera's saying, I don't want to focus on that. I've already seen that. There we go. That's a lot of paper, and that's a big challenge for a machine like this to mow through it like that. But Emma's Elna Lotus SP just did it without even trying. Okay. I'm going to do a final sew off now because we got to wrap this up. I still had all of these that we could have potentially sewed off. All of this stuff here. I had regular denim. I had another type of denim. I had this other leather style. We had some protected full grain leather here. Could do the protected full grain leather. That's always fun to do. But I had all this additional sewing to do, but we've already been running 2 hours and 20 minutes. Can you believe it? When we get together, our time passes so quick. It passes so quick that we just lose track of time, don't we? So if anyone is really passionate about saying, no, wait, hold on, put your brakes on, tap your brakes, Scott. I really, really would like to see Emma's Lotus SP sew denim, or that type of denim, or that type of leather, or this type of leather, or this type of leather, or that type of leather. We've already sewn a lot of leather, but if anyone's ultra passionate about wanting to see one of these sew-offs, I'll do it real quick before the final sew-off. But if no one raises their voice, I'm going to toss this to the side and save it for another sewing machine, which is very likely going to be either a Necky sewing machine that I've got over on the workbench over there. It's a more modern one. This one right over there. Or possibly the 401A all the way to the right. I may end up doing that one. But I'm not seeing anybody voicing any concern or, golly gee whiz, I'd really like to see that. So I'm going to move on. I know we've been running a long time, and Tuesdays are always busy for everybody. So we'll move on, and I'll do a final sew off of genuine cowhide. It's probably going to be right around, well, I'd say probably between 5 to 7 ounces. And we're going to be sewing around, not in a circle this time. I kind of pulled a whammy on you. We're not going to be sewing in a circle. We're going to be sewing kind of almost like in a, what shape is this? What shape is that? Does anyone know? It's kind of like a triangle, but not, because I rounded the edges off. Kind of, what is that? Does that have any of you that are really good with geometry? Does that have a name? It's not a polygon, is it? I remember that from like a million years ago when I was in school. Anyway, whatever this thing is called, we're going to be stitching on it now. And it's again about 5 to 7 ounces of genuine cowhide leather. So it's not quite as thick as a man's belt, but I would say that that is fairly thick stuff. Yeah, let's give it a try. Now I have to pick what stitch it is. Then anyone have a strong opinion on stitch? Do we stick with the blind hem that we just did? Do we go to a 3-point zigzag? Do we do a straight stitch? What do y'all think? Those of you that are still awake, come on, y'all, wake up. What do you think? What should be our final stitch on Emma's machine as I try my best to go around in circles, sort of circles. So straight stitch, blind hem stitch, zigzag stitch, 3-point stitch. What do y'all think? I think we're still live. Pretty sure. Yeah, we're still live. Susie wants a straight stitch. Okay, we can pull off a straight stitch. All right, so I've got to change our stitch setting. I'm going to go from, right now we're set on a blind hem. We're going to go over to a straight stitch. So I'm going to take our stitch width all the way down to 0. And then I'm going to move our stitch selector over to zigzag. And I'll move our stitch length to, why don't we say right around 3. We're not going to go to 4. We'll go right around to 3. And then I'll do my best to sew in a sort of a circle, but it's not really a circle. And I should also probably buzz down real quick and say hello to folks, because I haven't done that. Been so busy doing other things. And then we'll finally have a chance to see what Sibel sent from Brooklyn, New York. I think I'll put on some Italian. Well, actually, no. Let's put on some marching music. We'll put on some marching music to sew. Well, Italian's nice too. Does anybody have a birthday? Looks like I have the birthday song too. That would be different. Okay, if you had a birthday, this is November now. If you had a birthday in October, or you have a birthday this month in November, because I think we're going to be doing another live stream in the next couple of weeks. Not right away because I've got to make a little trip. But if you had a birthday last month in October, or you have a birthday this month in November, and we'll even say December, okay? October, November, or December. If you have a birthday in any of those months, this birthday song for this final sew-off is for you. It's for you, okay? And yeah, so happy birthday. Remember, you're not older. You're just older. You're older, but that's okay. Age is just a number, right? You're saying, shut up, Scott, and just play the music, man. All right. A little birthday song for all of you that had birthdays last month, this month, or in December. Happy birthday to Jenny. Happy birthday, dear Jenny. She turned 70 years young. Yeah, baby. Happy birthday. All right, let's go. I got to cut the threads real quick. Hold on. All right, that's as far as I can go. Well, seriously though, a happy birthday to Jenny as she turned 70, and to all others that had birthdays. I didn't look in detail at it, but if we had any other birthdays, I hope you had a wonderful birthday. Or if you're having a birthday this month, I hope it's fabulous. And we're going to do a little bit of a transition now after I show you the stitching. And we're going to move over to this mystery package that came from Brooklyn, New York, finally. To you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you, and many more. Yeah, many more, many more. I think we're still doing happy birthday. Beautiful stitching. Wow. Very nice stitching. Lock stitching. Whoop. Yeah, baby. Ha ha! All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to pause this real quick. I'm going to try to pause it real quick. Thank you to everybody that joined us for this first section of this live stream as we celebrated this Elna Lotus SP that came into the workshop limping badly and now is just ready and full of vitality to go down and play with Emma in Florida, creating all kinds of fun projects. Really is a fabulous, fabulous machine, an innovative design, and it's so great to have such a small, fun-sized package with so much punch with that 0.75 amp motor. So I'm going to start to pack things together. Susie will make sure the puppies are reasonably content and work her way out towards the workshop. And then she and I will open this special package that Sibel was so thoughtful and so kind in putting together to send to the workshop as a thank you for the 404 Singer Frankenstein project. Yeah, just in time for Halloween. Yeah, it was. All right, a little bit more happy birthday for all of you birthday girls and boys. This is the fun part. This is where I get to tuck this machine away. Wait for it. Wait for it. Ha ha! Woo-hoo-hoo! Yeah! What a great machine. What a great machine. All right. I'm going to move this out of the way and we're going to move to our next phase now. Perfect timing. I did not plan that. Yeah, I did. Sure, I planned it. No, I didn't. Okay. Well, I've got the camera up as high as I possibly can. You can see our all of our machines waiting for workshop magic. But right now we're going to focus on one of our very special, I'll just call them family members because they are, aren't they? Sibel, who's given me the opportunity to work on 2 machines for her. And she'd have to remind me because I deal with so many machines and we've had a number of transitions. I don't remember what the first machine was that I worked on for her, but I worked on a first machine and she was just tickled pink and eventually reached back out about this machine she bought on eBay. This eBay machine, again, was a troubled machine. And that's the thing when you buy a machine on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Etsy, Pinterest, wherever it is, a seller can sometimes either not know or they're just downright not honest about what it is that they're selling and what the condition is. And they don't give you enough to really figure things out. So you go, sometimes you take a step of faith and sometimes you discover, oh, dang, it's not what I expected. But I was able to step in the gap and able to get that machine back, partner with one of ours from our personal collection. And it'll be arriving tomorrow in Brooklyn, New York. And Sibel will be like, ah! And have a lot of fun with it. So anyway, let's focus on this package now. Susie's going to step into the shot as well, if she's willing. Be able to see this lovely lady. Can't see her yet. She got to step further. You got to step over this way, Susie. You got to step this way. Come this way. Come this way. You step all the way over. There she is. See, it's hard when you're looking at the laptop because the laptop will like change the perspective of what you're looking for. So I'm going to get some tools to get us into this. No, you're perfect. If you want, I'm gonna position you.
Yes, please.
Right there. Ha ha. I got to snuck a smooch in too. This is the best live stream ever. Okay. So we're going to begin trying to open this box. I don't have a science behind. I'm just going to push on the top like I do when it's a sewing machine. I can feel there's a little bit of give on top. So I'm going to open it up very carefully with this just to get an opening going. And then I'll use these special scissors. These scissors were introduced to me originally. They were from Emma, right? Yeah, these scissors originally were introduced to me from Emma. And they're fabulous because they're designed to cut bandages and stuff. So they point away from and they don't hurt things. So that's good. Like this. I don't know if anyone else has ever been to New York. It's been a million years since I was in New York. Susie's never been to New York, I don't think. But that would be a fun city to visit. We could take Sibel out for coffee. We could see Rachel and Candido. We could visit the academy and see how it's changed. Probably didn't change at all since I was stationed there. Yeah, just see the sights. New York is one of those cities it's fabulous to visit at Christmas time because of all of the shops that have the animated figures in the window. Just, it's magical. Magical, magical, magical to see that. Well, I think Sibel is giving me a lot of cleaning supplies, which are very helpful. Very, very helpful. Here's what I'm going to do is, Susie is closer to the camera than I am. I'm going to hand her these things, and as we take them out, she can show them to you all and talk about them a little bit, whatever you're comfortable saying, huh?
These look like scouring pads.
You got to turn around and actually face the camera.
These look like scouring pads, the kind that actually don't damage surfaces.
You got to hold them up higher so you can see them. Different colored ones.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, these are the ones that do not damage surfaces when you use
They
them.
don't scratch the surfaces, huh? Okay. And super absorbent cleaning cloths by Spick and Span. You have to hold it up high enough so they can see it on the camera. Very nice. Keep moving forward. Okay. This is a, I'll let Susie examine. It's kind of like a vinyl material. Placemat absorbs water quickly, fast drying, rolls up easily, protects your sewing machine, parts, tools, and surfaces, anti-slip, easy to clean, engineered for you. So now I'm thinking, is this something Sibel made, or where'd she get it? It's very cool. You can show that and show the note as well. Then they can see how pretty she writes. Girls always write prettier than boys, don't they? They just do. They always write a little bit higher, huh? They always write prettier than boys. But that sounds like a really, we're talking in this live stream all about innovation and design. This material looks like it's all about innovation and design with what it's able to do to safeguard your sewing space. Very cool. It feels like vinyl, or what does it feel like?
Yes. Yeah, but like vinyl.
Like a vinyl material. Very cool.
She says it's absorbent. Wonderful.
Okay. Oh, and she even gave me packing peanuts. I love this. I'm actually getting low. I'm getting low on packing peanuts. And I'll have to get more. So now I've got a little bit more to bridge a gap for when I'm mailing something. Very, very nice. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And now this. Some sort of a mat or a covering. I'm going to let Susie pull it out. And it says Minnesota Summers. So this is really for Susie, right? Because Susie's originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I spent some time with her there, but it's a beautiful, what is it, Susie? Like a cover or something, or a mat?
I think it's a sewing machine mat. Maybe for underneath your sewing machine.
Yeah, you have to turn it around the other way so that you can hold it up so they can see the design. Summer in Minnesota, exploring discovery. Tell you, Minnesota owes us some kickback from this. We're doing a major promo for Minnesota right now, guys. But that's super cool. I didn't remember that, but I guess I've talked about it enough that everyone knows that Susie's originally from Minnesota. And other than Minnesota having the Vikings, it's a very nice state. I've got to give a little push and shove to the Vikings, right? Beautiful work. Very beautiful.
Thank you, Sibel.
All right, we'll pull out the rest of this paper. And this is exactly the paper. I'm just going to hold it up to the camera. This is exactly the paper that we just sewed off on. 16 layers of it with Emma's machine, this Amazon packing parchment paper. I feel like saying Peter Piper picked a pack of pepper pickles or something like that, because that's what it is, right? All those P's you have to say this stuff, but this is wonderful stuff. Susie has a way of flattening this out, and maybe we'll use some of this. She's nodding. You can't see her nodding. She's nodding. We're going to use some of this on future sew-offs. So we're going to use everything in this box. I don't know. Maybe I'll sew the box. You never know. I've done crazier things. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, and there's cows on it. There's cows. For mounting it, and it's already pre-drilled with holes.
I think we have a place in our entryway for that.
We have a place in our entryway for this to hang to hang cows on it, to hang hats and scarves and all kinds of things on
It
it.
looks like the same cow that's on your T-shirt. Cow with a little attitude.
Well, and I have a confession to make. Susie's been making all these really cool T-shirts. I'm going to have you hold that for a moment and point it towards the camera, if you would. A little bit higher, hon. I'm going to hold it too because it's a chunk of wood and it's heavy. You can see the beautiful work on this.
It's so lovely, Sybil.
Very, very nice. I'm going to push it all the way over. Keep going, keep going. Susie's going to tip over here any second now. But to get an idea, look at it from the side like a sew-off. That's solid wood, folks. Solid wood, just beautiful work. These are things that, as far as I know, Sybil made all these. So she's also a handy gal beyond being a sewist as well. Very, very nice. Very nice. I feel like I want to play the happy birthday song again. My birthday's not till January, and it's like we got an early birthday here.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. I was going to say something else, and I just totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, okay. Is Bella, I'm just looking at the live chat. Is Bella Grace, is that?
That's Sybil.
That's Sybil, okay. So this is reclaimed wood, and it's very old, and beautiful, without a doubt. Oh my goodness.
How thoughtful.
Very, very cool. Very cool. And I even got wall anchors so I can put holes in the wall. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And the giving, this keeps on giving. I got another cool thing here. See if I can open this. I should make you all wait for this. I'll make you wait for this, and I'll show you that I also have more cotton balls. I go through like 10 million of these on a project. So these are going to go to use very, very quickly. I think those are cotton balls, aren't they, Susie?
Yes.
Cotton balls. And also the cotton rounds, which I use a ton of these also
Yes.
for cleaning the machines, and also use it for polishing the machine as well. Very, very nice. And special hooks for hanging stuff in the workshop. We saw in the workshop, Susie had got me a bunch of these, but you can always use more. You can always use more of these. A couple of things I've run short on, and I think it's these specifically because you can slide things over them, kind of like I have for my my headband that I use that lights up so I can see inside of the machines. So these are going to go to work right away too. Very, very nice. Open this one up. This, you can't, the thing about live streams, you can't smell you can't smell anything. There's no smell-o-vision. And right now, as I'm opening this box, I'm reminded of something, even before I show it to you, that Sybil makes the most fabulous homemade soaps. She can type more in the live stream about what these soaps are, but I know she gave some to me previously, and it made the whole workshop in Oconto. People would just walk in and go, "What is that smell? That's so wonderful." And I have to confess, so one person got so excited. They had driven in from, I want to say they had driven in from Oklahoma with some machines. And this guy, it's a guy, he got so excited about the smell in the workshop. And when I identified what it was, he goes, "Can I have one of those?" So I gave him one of the soaps that Sybil had sent to the Oconto workshop. And now we've got some so that if people ever come to visit this one, although most people are afraid to come up into the mountains and there's bears and there's coyotes and all kinds of other scary things. But if anyone is ever brave enough, other than maybe Teresa and Tim, when they come to visit us in December next month, potentially, if the trip still is pulled off. I don't know if they're going to do it. They've had some things they've been managing. But if they do, they'll have a chance to walk in and go, ooh, your workshop smells yummy. So I think Sybil might have typed something else in. So very, very nice.
She says, "I sent you soaps in this package too. Look for it."
Yep, I remember.
Thank you, Sibel.
Just have to cut this bubble. She's been watching some of the packing videos. This thing is like packed to the hilt.
And the things that she's giving you, she's been paying attention to you in the workshop.
Well, exactly. Paying very close attention and being very, very attentive. All right, finally got it to a point now.
Oh, looky.
I finally got it to a point where I can.
Oh my goodness.
This is all tile work, I think, isn't it, Susan?
Yes. Wow. Sibel, you're amazing.
And she signed the back of it. Hey, I got to show this to you guys. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is all, it's wood, and then it has tile work on the front of it.
It's beautiful.
I'm going to find a prominent place to hang this up. That is artistic craftsmanship is what that is.
It's beautiful.
Look at the signature on the back. It's like a limited edition thing, y'all.
It's got the year. Perfect.
All I can say is, wow. 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 So many amazing gifts. And we're not done yet. I know you're right now, you're saying, hold on, buddy. You forgot about the soap. So I'm going to pull the soap.
I could smell
I'm going to pull the soap out now. This is Tea Tree is that Vertiver? Vertiver soaps by Sibel.
Oh.
I don't know. I know what tea tree is. I've heard of that, but I've never heard of Vertiver. Here, I'll show it to the audience. Maybe y'all can help us. I know these are all handmade soaps. I remember that from the last ones that Sibel sent to the Ocanto workshop. They're all custom made. They're all handmade soaps. From Brooklyn, New York. Who would know? So I'm going to open this one now. We'll take a look at these. Oh, that's tapping is what. I'm not going to pull them out because I'll show you inside of the bag. These are actually, maybe I'll pull one out. See if I can pull one out. Oh my goodness. You see that? You can tell it's not store-bought. This isn't store-bought stuff.
It's beautiful.
Oh, if you could be here right now. All of you that are watching this now or watching it later could be here and smell this stuff. You'd be like, how do I get a hold of that lady from Brooklyn, New York? I want some of that. And I don't know if Sibel has a website or how she lets people know about her soap, but if she wants to share anything in the live chat for the folks here now or that'll watch this later as a video, please, please, please share how they can find this soap, how they can get in contact with you. Because I can hear Dove right now and some of the other people that are famous for soap. They're just chawing at the bit to say, all right, is this lady a threat because she's making this handmade soap? But it's just the aroma is so rich and so clean and so pure. Oh, it gives, okay, it's like a vitality. So as I breathe this in, wait a second. Even through the bag, I feel stronger. I do. I feel stronger. I want to. Seriously, though, no, it is. If you didn't read the live chat, if you're watching this later and you don't read the live chat for whatever reason, I don't know why you wouldn't, because there's a lot of interesting things that pop up in the live chat. But what Sibel wrote is, vetiver is a grass from the tropical islands It promotes physical strength. Yeah. So not only do you get clean, not only do you smell better, but if you're living in New York and you're riding the subways, a little bit of extra strength. I've been on those subways. I used to travel in from the Hudson Valley near Poughkeepsie on the, what was it called? The Bear Mountain. We would get the train by the Bear Mountain Bridge, and we would ride it into New York, come into Grand Central Station. And I can tell you this. Oh, and the tree is antimicrobial as well, which means it's no germs, right? So not only do you get stronger, not only do you smell great, but you also get strength and you fight all the germs. So this would also, hopefully we never go into a pandemic again. But if we ever went into a pandemic again, this is the stuff you need, because it keeps your strength up, your immune system probably. It fights germs. And even if someone, not just in New York, anywhere, it could happen in Kentucky. Someone tries to mug you, they're going to walk up and say, "Hey, I want your recipe. You smell so good. I don't want your wallet. Can you get me some of that soap?" And I'll say, "I'll reach out to Sibel, see what I can do. But first of all, we have to call the police and you have to go to jail. So we'll get you some soap in jail or something like that." But no, it's just amazing. I wish you all could smell this. And the fact that it's handmade and it's one of a kind, along with all the other special things that Sibel made for cow country. Very, very special. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. We've been running just shy of 3 hours. Can you believe it? Time passes so quick when we're together. And if you're watching this later as a video and you want to reach out and you want to find out how you can get some of this really amazing hand soap that makes you stronger, makes you smell great, it fights germs, it does all of that, you can reach out to me, give me your information, and I'll pass it along to Sibel. And then I don't know how or if she sells this or just makes it for friends and family. But you can find all that out, and we'll see if we can get you some of this amazing soap. But thank you to Sibel so much for the special gifts, all handmade, and for all the cleaning supplies. And also thank you to Emma for the opportunity of taking that Lotus SP back to a point where you can enjoy it. It's not going to be sewing, like room like it was initially. Now it's like, whoa! So anyway, God bless all of you guys and gals. If we don't do another live stream by the time Thanksgiving comes, because I'm going to be doing some traveling, have a great and a blessed Thanksgiving. And thank you so much for being a part of this today and for making us better, because we all learn from each other. It's what the classroom is all about. And I'll end this live stream with just one more round of happy birthday for Ginny, and for others that will watch this later and say, "Hey, it was my birthday in October," or "It's my birthday this month." Then you can feel like you're being celebrated, along with celebrating Sibel's many gifts and talents in all that she's done to show, that special caring and kindness to us. And hopefully I've returned some of that kindness in the work that was done on the Singer 404 that arrives in Brooklyn, New York tomorrow. So take care, everybody. Susie's waving, but you can't see her. Yeah.